tell that 40 years before the lynching of the 14-year-old African-American boy Emmett Till in Mississippi, there was the lynching of a 14-year-old Mexican-American boy in Texas. On June 19, 1911, in Thorndale, Texas, Antonio Gomez, a child of Mexican migrants, carved pieces of wood as he made his way home and walked on the sidewalk. As he passed the saloon, the white owner scolded him for littering. Other white men there cursed at Antonio and backed the owner. When Antonio tried to leave, one of the white men took a piece of wood that Antonio had been whittling and began striking Antonio. The rest of the white men laughed, and out of self-defense, Antonio stabbed the man who was striking him with wood. Antonio stabbed him using the exact same knife he had used to whittle wood. The white man eventually died from his wounds, and a constable who happened to be nearby immediately placed Antonio in a calaboose. When word got around town, the constable moved Antonio to a gin house to protect him from any angry white mobs. Antonio was only 14 years old, so he couldn't legally be executed for his actions. Just a few hours after being arrested, an angry white mob did in fact find Antonio. Antonio did try to run, but he was grabbed by some men and horsemen. They dragged him around town, tied to the back of a buggy, and into the middle of town, where hundreds of people watched him get beat, kicked, and lynched. At one point he fell, gasping for air, but they still continued to kick him. The Mexican community and the Mexican government voiced its outrage and demanded justice. This pressured the governor of Texas at that time to act. He had 4 men arrested, one of which his charges were dropped, and the other 3 were acquitted. Antonio Gomez, just like Emmett Till, never got his justice.
Shalom. Yahweh, B'Shem YASHAYA, B'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, where the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 YASHAYA, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinoes, and Native Americans. Before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the oppression of the Northern Kingdom, also referred to as the Latinos and Native Americans. Right? But before we get into that, let's read this. This is Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Now right here, where it says the children of Israel, that's referring to the Northern Kingdom, or like I said, the Latinos and the Native Americans, which realistically we're just one people, right? There's no such thing as Indian and Latinos or Mexicans, right? We're one people. The only thing that separates us is that the border that was drawn by our captors, okay? And right here where it says children of Judah, this is referring to the Southern Kingdom, right? Or what you would refer to today as the so-called Negro races, Haitians and West Indians, right? Jamaican and whatnot. But notice here it says we were oppressed together, because when you get into our history and you find out what happened to us as a people, you find out that we have a similar, story. How we were taken into captivity by people who, came from the other sides of the world. They put us into captivity, sold us or made us labor, and they also took away from us our heritage. Hence why the Negroes took on the names of their masters, and the same thing with the Latinos and the Native Americans, right? Both of the groups, the Southern and Northern Kingdoms, again, had the oppressors come from the other side of the world. They lost, they were taken into captivity or put into harsh labor, and they eventually took on the last names of their captives, right? And they got given new identities, and till this day, us three are still living under the captivity of our oppressors, though we are given a sense of freedom. But ultimately, when you get into really what's going on, we're simply tax slaves, right? We're chattel slaves here in a land or a plantation known as a country, referred to as America. And again, I know this isn't made, well known, because here in America, the plight of the Latinos and the Native Americans isn't as well published as that plight that happened to the Southern Kingdom. Right? You hear more about how the Southern Kingdom was lynched, hanged, and you hear about all these things, but you got evidence like this, right? It tells you at the top, says, here's another picture of a Mexican getting treated the same as a Negro because in the 1500s and 1600s, they were considered as Negro. Even ever wonder why we live in the hood together? You see, well, the reason why we live in the hood together is because we're the same people under the same curses. Now, just like I said here, in the 15 and 1600s, that's ultimately when we went into captivity under our captives, right? Now, when you get into, let's go back to the beginning, right? Right here, this shows how the Europeans and our enemies came up against us, took over our land, and ultimately destroyed us as a people, and basically put us into chains and hard bondage, right? Right here you see we had that yoke of iron, right? And we were being taken away. I believe this image here shows the Indians from, I think this is from Peru. I made a lesson about this recently, about how they were being taken to Europe to be shown off, right? And right here are images of what you refer to as Rough Riders, right? Basically, these are the progenitors to the modern day Rangers, who would basically watching over the southern border, and they would basically string up and lynch Latinos like you're seeing here in these pictures. And again, this isn't just something of the past, right? Today the lynching is happening, but it's happening in a different manner, right? We have families being separated, put into prisons, and children also ultimately being lost, right? I think right now it's like 85,000 children that came over the border. They're unaccounted for. See, this place is wicked, right? Here's what happened to the tribe of Gad and the Seminole Indians, right? Which you would refer to as the Native American Indians. We both were oppressed, just as Judah was. But again, the difference is that this happened to us before all modern day reporting or records could be kept. This happened, like it said in that image, in the 1600s, when the only evidence that we have of this that happened is from the missionaries' own biographies, where they actually wrote about what happened to our people. Okay? And again, when you look at what happened to the Southern Kingdom, this is all, it's a pattern, right? And why is this? Why did we, all three of us, why did we all go through the same punishments? Well, because again, we are the Israelites of the Holy Bible, and these curses fell upon us in the same lot. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh, Ba'ashem YASHAYA, shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed thee. Right? And moreover, let's read this. This is Leviticus 26 and 17. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate thee shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you. And that's ultimately what's happened to us, man. We've been, all Israelites, we've been put into a state of captivity, and we were put into a heavy bondage. Some of us had literal, yokes of iron. Others, spiritual yokes of iron, right? Where we basically were put into hard bondage, right? We had shackles around our legs, and even today we have mental shackles around our thoughts. We've been trained up to believe that Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 was the normal thing, right? We're taught that if we work hard enough, we'll get to the same place as Esau, right? When knowing that these devils, they've climbed up the ladder and pulled it up right after them. They having no intentions of giving us our rightful wages or credit for what we've done. And this is because our enemies are reigning over us and we are still in a state of captivities. Yes, there are some of us who are, better off and not as oppressed as others. There's some who have sold out. There's some who have been blessed. But ultimately, this all comes down to who's going to have to pay for this, right? Well, the Bible tells you that Esau, the Caucasian race, right, who biblically are known as the Edomites, who have pretty much done all these things to us, they're going to have to pay. It tells you here, it says, Obadiah 1 and 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And that's the crux of the matter, Akim. These devils, they got away with a lot. But again, they didn't realize that it's not over yet, right? As Apostle Tahar says, man, time's on our side. And they messed up. Because why? Because they took the children of Israel, the apple of the eye of the Lord, into captivity, right? They didn't do this to just any normal people out there, man. They did this to the Israelites, the children of God. And they still have us in captivity. This is why, the Southern Kingdom isn't getting reparations. The Latinos, they're being oppressed. Right now they're even talking about invading Mexico, sending drones down there, just because now that Mexico doesn't want to share the lithium resources and all these different things. You see, these devils, these Edomites in charge, they ain't gonna stop. There's no getting along with them. So this is why it tells you that they're gonna have to be cut off forever. So either way, Akim, hopefully this video was edifying. Want to make a quick hit today. So with all that, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Bashem, YASHAYA, Bashem, the Lord, my teachers, the apostles, the elders, the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.